Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Leadnap Gaming. Today we are going to talk about the BK90 Mjolnir submunition dispenser system for the AJS37 Viggen in DCS. Let's first start off in talking about what are submunitions. So submunitions, more commonly referred to in this case as bomblets, come in a variety of sizes, shapes, and styles. Photographed here are actually different ones from the ones carried on the Mjolnir, but we can still get the idea. First, in our kind of small pictures here, is the M77 submunition, which would be found on DPICM bombs and artillery shells. A similar variant to the ones then found on the right, which I believe are actually a Russian submunition dispensing bomb, are similar more to anti-tank munitions. Those are also similar to the ones fired by the MLRS, on which you would have 644 bomblets. The kind of key differences is these larger kind of shaped grooves and just the style are more reminiscent. You can also tell they're larger, more softball sized, are for anti-vehicle use. So as far as the Mjolnir goes though, you have three options when selecting the loadout. The MJ1 variant is a strictly anti-personnel and is going to have smaller anti-personnel submunitions. The MJ2 is anti-vehicle, which will have larger anti-vehicle submunitions. To be clear though, anti-vehicle is really a reference to light armored vehicles such as a BDRM. They are not going to be effective against frontline armored units like a BMP or a main battle tank. In real life, you would achieve mobility kills against those by damaging the tracks and requiring the crews to at least replace the tracks and potentially some of the running gear. So you still get a delay on the battlefield, which could be strategic and important. But I don't know that DCS, actually I do know, DCS doesn't currently render that because I've watched wheeled vehicles drive out of my impact area after not being destroyed by, so you don't get a mobility kill in the game. There is, of course, the third option, which is a combination of more general purpose load of both MJ1 and 2. What's the difference then? Well, the difference is this. The MJ1 or the MJ2 alone are going to carry more of their specific type of munition. The more general purpose MJ1 and 2 load is always going to be useful. If you're attacking troops in the open, you might as well still carry the more general purpose version because anti-tank munitions will still work on people. But if you're attacking a FARP site or something like that where you're really going after vehicles, I would recommend the anti-vehicle load. You're going to get more anti-vehicle bomblets. Another important consideration with the kind of dual general purpose round is that the bomblets fall at different rates. So you're going to see, if you watch your impact, the anti-vehicle version go off first, followed shortly thereafter by the anti-personnel munitions. So you do get a kind of weird secondary effect, which is kind of fun to watch. So let's go ahead and talk about release characteristics. Photographed here is the BK90 Mjolnir system. It is a guided weapon that has no propellant, no motor, or anything like that. What does that mean? Well, most importantly, it means it has no IR signature. This is a big deal. We're going to talk later about STANDOFF, but what's important about this is understanding that most short-range, immediate acquisition surface-to-air missile systems, especially man-pad systems, the SA-1, SA-2, and so on, use IR seekers. Also, a lot of aircraft that attempt to shoot down missiles are going to use, you guessed it, IR missiles. Well, they are not going to work against the BK90. And anyone that's using a radar-guided missile to shoot one of these down is probably too close to get an appropriate lock, at least in time to get it done. So what you have here is a very difficult weapon, even though it's a pretty slow weapon, to shoot down. If you're on the ground and see this thing coming at you, you don't have a lot of time and you're not stopping it. So that's what's great. It does use your inertia though to get where it's going. Well, so what does that mean? For us, that means that there is a certain release envelope that we need to hit. And I realize that I said that kind of in a weird way, in order to deploy this thing appropriately. So you need to release it between 50 and 500 meters of altitude. You need to release it at speed of at least Mach 0.6 and at most Mach 0.9, understanding that 0.9 is the most you're probably ever going to get out of a fully loaded Viggen anyways. So pretty much know that you can come in full bore and release this thing. One thing that is not found in any of the documentation that I have found through trial and error, but also that makes perfect sense, is that you must maintain a level attitude during the release. Why is that? Well, like I said, this is not a propelled weapon. And the issue is these 2 fins on top and these 4 fins on back. The fort you can't see, but it's back there, obviously. So the way this thing works is, one, it is important to know that your attitude when release isn't a factor as far as the munition hitting you. These are really cool, and if you ever watch the promotional videos, they just kind of like fly off the back of your wing going backwards, just because they're released, and they, again, ride on the inertia of the release. You don't need to worry that if you don't maintain a level attitude that they're going to hit you. I've had anyone who's, early in the game found out you can blow yourself up with your own ordnance if you're doing some weird things during release. It's not going to hit you if you don't maintain a level attitude. So if you need to evade a SAM or something like that and you're releasing these, you're not going to hit your target, but you'll live to see another day, hopefully. The issue is that it's a guided instrument flight. So your fire control computer, right before release, tells it, all right, this is where we are, and this is your calculated, these are the adjustments you're going to need to make between here and the target waypoint. If you release it sideways, it's still going to do the exact same maneuvers it would have done if you were level, but now those same instrument adjustments are going to direct it away from your target. So maintain a level attitude during release. That does not mean you have to maintain a level altitude or flight. It just means that your wings need to be roughly parallel with the Earth's surface. All right, so regarding release characteristics, you do have a range of 3 to 7 kilometers. Your speed and altitude are the determining factors here. There is actually a third determining factor we'll get to in a moment. It is important to know, though, that the more important factor here is your speed and not your altitude. The higher up you release this, the more time it has to navigate its way down as it glides down. So the higher up you are, the further out you can release it. Obviously, the faster you're going, the same is true. The faster it will be going, and the more adjustments it'll be able to make in its flight. So what I can tell you is I usually release these at around 100 meters or lower, and I'm usually going at full speed. And I usually release around 7 kilometers. So understand that you don't have to be super high to release this and get the full range out of it, but know that the higher up you release it, the further out your range will be. It is a pre-programmable attack weapon. I think there's an issue for a lot of people with the Viggen in that they don't understand what the Viggen does, what it does very well. And it doesn't do anything else very well. And I think a lot of people hate the Viggen for that, and I love the Viggen for that. Pre-programmable attack weapons are what make the Viggen awesome. The same as the RB04 and RB15 anti-ship missile systems, these weapons we can fully program, and once we fire them, we can get the hell out of Dodge. So it's important to understand how to set them. The first setting is going to be your cruise altitude setting, the 91 setting. This is that third factor in your range as well, just so that you know. So you can set the altitude for this thing to fly at least fly above between 30 and 500 meters. And it's important that you do so only in the consideration that your target may be masked by something and you may be using that intentionally. So if you put a hill between you and the impact area, which is really meaning that you're putting a hill between your release point and the impact area, you're going to need to make sure you set a cruise altitude for the system that is above, that's higher than the hill. Otherwise, it's going to fly into the side of the hill. An important consideration in that as well is that higher altitudes reduce your range options. What do I mean? Because I just told you that the higher you are, the further you can go. True, but remember that you can set this thing for a max altitude of 500 meters. You can also only release this at a maximum altitude of 500 meters. Gravity is a bitch. What does this mean? This means that if you set it for 500 meters, you're going to be releasing this pretty much right on top of the target. So if you tell it needs to be at 100 meters, it means that the end of its glide path has to be 100 meters up, which means that irrelevant to your range, it needs to be able to hit that. So those are important considerations. If at all possible, you do want to just leave this at the default of 30. And most people don't change this. Like I said, this is really only if you're going to use a terrain feature or if other objects such as buildings are between your release point in your impact area. To put these in, you're going to go into TACT, you're going to enter the code 91, and the last 4 digits determine the altitude. So for example, for 500 meters, it would be 910500. For 30 meters, 910030, and everything in between, I'm sure you can figure out. The next most important setting is your area impact settings, the 92 setting. There are 3 options, and we're going to go into depth on these in a moment, but they are long, wide, and compact. To input these, again, on the system, you're going to go into TACT. You're going to enter 92, which is the code for area impact settings, and then you're going to enter 1000, 2000, or all zeros. So let's go ahead and talk about those now. For the area impact of a long area attack, which is code 921000, we're going to imagine that we're attacking objects on a runway. The BK90 will not crater a runway. It'll leave a lot of FOD though. So it's not really an ideal weapon to attack runways with, but if there were a whole bunch of planes getting ready to take off for a strike, this would probably be a great weapon to use. So you're actually more likely going to use this against an apron. But it's easier to understand this deployment when using the example of a runway, so we will. Here you can see your axis of attack. This means the direction that you are flying when you release the weapons. So in the case that we're in line with our target area, like a runway, and this is our axis of attack, we're going to have our target waypoint. You do have to have a target waypoint. So you must have an M-type point on the Viggen. That is going to be the target that the fire control computer is trying to calculate to navigate against. Going back a moment here to kind of what we were talking about as pre-programmed attacks, this weapon system is ideal, and the Viggen is ideal in attacking geographical areas that are known prior to takeoff. The Viggen is not a combat air support weapon, and the BK90 is not an ideal. I mean, it's an ideal weapon to use for combat air support if you didn't have to program it in like this. So this is, I mean, DPICM munitions are amazing on the battlefield, and I can tell you from experience, one of the most incredible things to watch. However, the BK90 is not one of those systems. So ideally, like I said, if we're trying to take a ground strike against a bunch of aircraft on an apron, right, that's when we would use this sort of a weapon system. So we would know that point in advance. You can plug this in on the go as a latitude and longitude if you get them from the ground. You could also identify them from radar and mark the point with radar, though it is an important consideration. The more accurate your weapon's waypoint, the more accurate this weapon will be. So in the long area attack, if this is our target waypoint, the munitions will be dispensed in a pattern that runs along, in front of, and behind, considering this is our axis of attack, the waypoint. And they would actually overlap over the waypoint. I just have them shown here so that it's clear they go to either side. The wide area attack then is used if you're coming in perpendicular to the area that you're trying to hit. So if we're coming in this way, perpendicular to our runway, our target waypoint doesn't change, but the pattern is now to the left and right, not front and back. The compact area attack is setting 9-2 and then all zeros. The axis of attack is irrelevant in this deployment. You could also hypothetically fire a single BK90 system instead of them both in a series and have an impact which maybe if you're attacking 2 different target waypoints might be useful. It's not really a common thing for a Viggen to fly, but the possibility is out there. Again here, I'm showing you the axis of attack from here, but you could attack from any direction, and that's because in compact area attack, all of the dispensers will drop over the same spot, creating a maximum zone of death. It will kill. So that is your 3 area attack settings. Now let's go ahead and talk about the deployment standoff concept and what makes this weapon system so useful, especially because even though you could absolutely deploy it in the manner shown in most of the promotional videos, what actually makes this weapon system so helpful and improves your success rate. So here we have our target, which is protected by a SAM. So we have the SAM bubble, which is the range at which a SAM can reach you with a missile. Here we have our Viggen. Please don't knock my ghetto graphics, all right? I'm Doing this on the fly for you. Most aircraft attacking a ground target are going to have to fly and perform a CCIR, CCIP, or a rocket or gun attack, which is going to require them to fly into the SAM bubble, attack it, and out of the SAM bubble again. Hopefully they killed the SAM here and can fly out safely. Surface-to-air missile and air defense concepts are all based on the fact that you are going to have to enter and close inside this SAM bubble, making it easier for them to hit you. Well, what standoff weapons allow us to do is, as we're flying and approach either into the edge of the SAM bubble or completely outside the SAM bubble, we can release our weapon and hit the target while then turning back out and getting out of the SAM bubble, or not entering it at all. So, you know, this is what makes the weapons on the Viggen. This is the same for the anti-ship missiles, and the BK90 is an anti-ship missile but on the ground. So useful, because we don't have to follow a lot of the kind of conventional, and it's not to say other aircraft can't do this, but this is where the BK90 is the most beneficial, because we can come in at high speed, even if we have to enter the SAM bubble. And again, like I said earlier, a lot of immediate acquisition SAM systems are short-range weapons, 7 to 10 kilometers or less, which means that if our release point is 7 kilometers out, we are just touching the very edge of the bubble, and even if they fire as we're traveling just under Mach 1, we're going to be able to get out of the bubble and out of range of the SAM, probably without even really having to do anything very evasive. So that's, you know, really the important considerations to have here, and I think a lot of people misunderstand with the Mjolnir and with the Viggen as a whole. So with all of that said, let's go ahead, jump in game, and see how this looks there. On a highway, and our job is to destroy it. The enemy is lightly armored vehicles and dismounts. It does include man-pad SAMs, I'll just tell you that now. I mean, you can see it right here. So we're hitting BTR-80s, insurgents, and a man-pad. Waypoint 7 is actually our target waypoint. I adapted this from the campaign mission I created so that it's shorter because of the slide deck. So it's actually waypoint 7. I just forgot to change that. The altitude for our target waypoint is 2,726 feet. I put that in so that we could calculate the QFE if we had to. Gene Airport is 2,800. Why is that there? Gene Airport's nowhere close to our target, but it does have a close altitude. If our kneeboard for some reason screwed us up and didn't give us our QFE, we can go find the QFE of Gene Airport, and we know we're pretty close. So yeah. Like normal, I'm not going to really discuss my startup procedures. I am trying to be more methodical. I mean, I'm still going to talk you through what I do, but this is not a startup tutorial. Now, we are flying at dusk, so we're just going to turn these on now so we don't have to worry about them later. Turn on our ground lights so that we don't kill any of the ground people. Pop ourselves over into nav. Should load our data cartridge and our ejection seat just in case. Probably helps if we give ourselves a little oxygen. Alright, lights are gone, dials are moved. Just waiting on the computer to load up now. While we wait for the computer to load up, I'm going to cover, I cover this in every one of these, and I do it just in case you only ever saw one of my videos, and you would know. The instructions are a little confusing for the navigational computer. When we're loading the data cartridge, we enter 9099. Now, in theory, you would actually enter the airport that you're at. In this case, we're at 9002. Think of 9099 as load cartridge, not fictional airport number 99. That's the best way I have to explain this. So the flashing 9 means loading, and the all zeros means it's completely loaded. Alright, so at this point, we could go flying. It's always a good thing to check our waypoints. The bearings are accurate, the distances look right. Just kind of a snap. Yep, all looks good. Waypoint 8 is a little weird that those aren't in mils, but in miles. Oh well, I'm not going to worry about that though. The other thing that we need to do though is go ahead and set up waypoint 7 as a weapons waypoint. To do so, obviously, we enter 9, enter the 7. Should be good. If we click that current position now and we hit 7, bam, we do see, there we go. We should see that it's now a weapons waypoint. Back to our airfield. So now let's go ahead and set up our weapon. The first thing we're going to do is program in an altitude. We're going to tell it 75 meter cruising altitude. It's a little higher than normal. My rationale for that, there is a small hill that we're going to go over. I do think it's less than 30 meters height difference, but we're just going to do that anyways, and this way you can see me enter that in. And then we're also going to do the compact area attack with our systems. So that's 92 and all zeros. Enter. Out. Computer-wise, our weapons are now set. There was a slide for this, but I don't remember talking about it, so let's go ahead and look at our weapon selector switch and kind of see what needs to be done here. Going to be an attack. Your interval doesn't really make a difference here. This switch confuses a lot of people, so let's talk about it. Our weapon release mode, single means I pull the trigger, only one's coming off. Series means I pull the trigger, they're both coming off. If we were firing air-to-air missiles, we want to be in single, because we'd only want to fire one of them at our target, not probably both of them. I don't know. This is really the one that confuses people, though. So, PrEP, RB-15, anti-ship missile, BK90, what we're shooting today. Which means we're paying attention to this side, not this side of the selector. Select, we just program stuff in, right? Which means you want to be in select, which means we selected what we want the missile to do. Standard means that it'll run on all of its default programming, okay? Select, program stuff in, be in select. If you don't program stuff in, you're probably going to want to run in standard. That's what that means, that's how that works. Now you know. Alright, so that was today's episode of The More You Know. I like to be in this kind of zoomed out so that I can see my warning lights for takeoff. Let's kick the tires, light the fires, and get this mission underway. Alright,
Pontiac
I
5-1.
pretty much...
Clear to taxi to runway 32.
I won't roll this. Just so you do know, we are taking off from Groom Lake. We could take 4 RBs instead of 2. That does mean you have to take less qualified, worse air-to-air missiles, which in this mission doesn't make a difference. There's no air threat at all. If you do, note that you need to use the longest runway possible, which this is the short runway at Groom Lake that we're on. And don't quick deploy your gear, because you are almost at your maximum weight. Come on. Another thing that I'll just cover really quick that a lot of people don't know about, or seem to be confused of, the Viggen has flaps, okay? You do have flaps. They are slaved to the gear. The Viggen is designed to really help you, especially in really crappy weather, which is pretty common up in the Baltic. So, as a result, and in, all of Scandinavia, really. As a result, your flaps are tied to your gear. If you deploy your gear, your flaps deploy. When you stow your gear, your flaps stow too. Which is why every now and then if you watch real videos of Viggen, you'll see the pilots with their landing gear out at high altitude. They're using their flaps as an air brake. you can get away with that in the Viggen as well, because your delta wings have just such a great, you already have really good lift because this thing is designed for really good flying at low altitude. So it's something that you don't need to worry a whole lot about. That's why you can even preset your year to come up as soon as you're off the ground to help gain airspeed, because your wings will still generate enough lift. Like I said though, if you're rocking 4 BK90s, don't keep the lift from your flaps. You're gonna need it. I found out the hard way. I tried it a couple times. Alright, so we're up to speed. Go ahead, drop back just to military power. And get on our way here. Now, one thing I always think is funny, it's true really of Viggen pilots, I'm at 170 meters and I feel like I am up high. Everyone who usually flies MiGs and F-15s and stuff like that are probably like, dude, you're at 180 meters, you're napping the Earth flight right now. No, I'm not. This is a Viggen. This is high altitude Viggen. Now again, someone in the comments is going to be like, no, I fly an F-15 all the time, or I fly a SU-33 and I regularly fly just above the wave tops. Yeah. So this mission, just so you know, the one in my tutorial campaign, which I know I haven't released yet as of the making of this video, you actually go north and you have a much better approach. I shortened this up because of the slide deck, like I said, so you saw the typo earlier. So, you know, for example, I put a giant mountain in the middle of my flight path. That's okay. Not a big deal. So yeah, so in this one we're actually going to fly really pretty much right over the strip. Usually in my other mission, you get to see Vegas after you drop your weapons, which I'm sure the civil authorities in Vegas would probably appreciate that you're not taking anti-personnel munitions right over the strip. It's not like we're going to accidentally release them or anything, but no. I can see them getting upset about that sort of thing. So right now we're going to turn our radar on. Again, not a radar tutorial, but we'll talk a little bit about the radar here. The higher you fly, the more useful your radar is, just so you know. It is a ground radar, ground mapping radar. So you can kind of see these white spots are areas we're not getting returns on. So this line here is this mountain range here. One advantage of us being up this high, as we approach Vegas, I'm going to show you guys this, we're going to adjust our QFE for our target. So we set our weapons selector stuff. Our weapons are pretty much good to go right now. Did I forget to change my backup altimeter? 86.1. Yes, I did. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is actually reset our backup altimeter, which takes a lot of time. I don't have it slaved to a key. We'll wait to do that until we're pointed at our next waypoint. Shoot there. Alright. Okay. 86. this thing. So why did I just waste all that time? Well, this is why I just did that. So, bring up our kneeboard, right? Our target waypoint. See, this is what I'm talking about. We have an 8th waypoint, but it doesn't show up. So sometimes these get missed. So our target waypoint is number 7 here. So number 7, QFE is 918.3. 86 here. So watch what's going to happen though. Watch the HUD. Your altitude hold runs off barometric altitude based on your primary altimeter here. So as a result, I set my backup so that I always have the actual barometric altitude from takeoff data. But this is also what's going to feed our weapon system, so we have to set it. Otherwise, I mean, you can see the kind of difference here. Our weapons just fly right into the ground if I don't set this. Because the ground is high, the elevation is higher. If that was on our kneeboard. So our takeoff altitude was 1,360, and we're going to 2,000. So if we didn't get the QFE set, we would smack ourselves pretty uncomfortably right into the ground there. Alright, now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that we are going to turn towards this strip in a moment. The other thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to drop down. The good people of Las Vegas don't get to see Viggens very often. And I just really feel like maybe they deserve a closer look. Wouldn't you? Yeah, it's dinner time, and we're going to hear a nice loud Pratt Whitney jet engine just rip over our houses. What more could we want? I'm not even that low. Let's get lower. It's pretty awesome to realize that right now I could release my munitions and really mess up someone's neighborhood. Oh, there are some cranes over here. Good to know. That's what you get for flying this low. I could get lower. But we're also going to turn towards the strip in just a second. I need to adjust the sensitivity of my rudder. It's so jerky. Yeah, baby. Now the waypoint is going to push us outside the strip, but let's give the good people on the strip a little show, because we can. We're going to go to Afterburner so that they're looking up into the sky. That was fun. I don't care who you are, and even though I'm sure the FAA would probably screw you royally for doing that. In real life, outside of like an air show. Well, let's be honest. You'd get in trouble for afterburnering over the city. So I was stationed in Reno for a while, and our
tiny, tiny, tiny little base was right next to the Reno Stead Airport. And we're actually going to keep our altitude up a little here just because we do have to fly over these little hills. So, yeah, there was a guy, he had a MiG-21, if memory serves correctly. And he would do burner takeoffs and stuff like that, because not anymore, but 10 years ago, Stead was pretty much a ghost town. So you could get away with crap like that. No one would complain. I went through 2 years ago, and it was way built up, man. It had stuff that you could only dream of having there. We would also get in a lot of trouble for flying over the runways of McCarran International here. Oh man, this is such a great route. You can tell I did not pay a whole lot of attention when I shortened this up for this video. But yeah, he would do burner takeoffs and taxi with his burner on, and oh my god, it would shake the buildings. It was awesome. I have a video of it somewhere on my hard drive. But yeah, no, so I can tell you from experience, you would get in a lot of trouble for burnering like that across the Strip, let alone across Vegas proper. All right, it did change. Some of these waypoints, I've noticed there have been some issues since the last update, November of 2018. Just so that you guys know which update I'm talking about. My waypoints are a lot pickier in Viggen than they used to be. Alright, so we are approaching 6. Our target is coming up shortly after this. So we're just going to go ahead and notice our fuel. We're just under 100. We're going to start our burner. Our target comes up pretty fast after this, so I'm just going to go ahead and unsafe so you can see I did it now. I usually wait till I'm a little closer, but the other thing we need to do is we need to be in attack. Alright, so we're heading in. This route's terrible. I did not realize we were going to put ourselves over a mountain like this. This is not a good. Fuck. I hate doing this like this, guys. I'm sorry. But, you can see why I had to do that. The waypoint didn't select, and we are almost at our release point over our actual target. So let's go ahead. Get ourselves set up. Good level approach. We're coming in hot, heavy. This is why I should demo my missions. So we're just waiting to see that line drop inside those two. Hopefully we don't get shot down here. We're going to be close. The shutters, both of our weapons releasing. We're going to pull out. Don't worry, I'll show you in the replay if we actually hit our weapons. But there is a salmon. That was a much closer release. We usually come the other direction, and I usually have way more time to that. Alright. Woo! Look at that, they hit. Nice. That is a relief, let me tell you. Okay, so let's go ahead, give ourselves waypoint 8. Go ahead and just drop back to nav here. Keep our HUD clean. And let's do this thing. like I said, I'm going to attach the footage of the weapons hitting after, so don't worry. Just hang on, you'll get it. Notice we're down to 80 on our fuel. I mean, our burner is burning, and only for brevity reasons am I actually kind of blasting us out here. We're just trying to get to this waypoint, and the mission should take us out. But there you saw it. You know, you could see too the kind of stutter of the airframe as we dial it back. Volume. You could see the deployment. You can kind of see we maintain that level of flight. Like I said, if you put a lineup point like I did in, really plan your approaches better, pay more attention. I did this really fast from the mission that I set up to actually demonstrate this so that it would be faster. So that wasn't a very sexy release by any means, but it gave you the idea. You got to see how it works. We're going to watch the replay footage of it. Don't worry, you're not going to watch the whole thing. I will cut it in post just so that you can really just kind of see the final element there. We'll get our load screen here before we do it. And we're almost there. Okay, so, whew, 11 out of 15. We're going to see in our post when I run it back and we watch the impact. A different impact choice might have been a better one. Truthfully, the long attack might have been a better approach to take here. We'll see what we missed. But we did a pretty good job. The other thing you can see here, why I don't just end the mission outright. On this one we didn't. Every now and then, a minute or two later, the weapon will, burning weapon will die, and you'll get points for it. So, all right. All right, guys. So, approaching the target. Trying to find the best. Normally, leave the lights on. Exactly. So you can actually see the release. Alright, so that was a great example of where the long area attack would have benefited us, because you can see we came in a little short on the impact. And you can see where they both came right in on top of each other. Had we deployed those the other way around with a long area attack, our second missile would have gone further and hit those vehicles we didn't get. Anyways, guys, let me know your comments down below. Do you like this new format where I gave you the kind of slide deck up front with all the information so it was easier to understand and you didn't have to just picture what I was trying to talk to you through? Let me know down in the comments. Hit subscribe, and I look forward to hearing from you guys next time.